26 Buba Pangola Buba Pangola.
Welcome, everybody. Before we dive in, we want to assure that everyone on this call can understand what is being said. And so if you would, if each person could go ahead on the bottom of your Zoom screen, you click on the globe and you can decide what language to listen to this press conference on. And it could be English, French, or Portuguese. And I'm going to have our interpreters say the same thing so everyone's on the same page before we fully dive in.
Portuguese, you want to explain, please? Off channel. No one?
Maybe we could go ahead and have our French interpreter explain what I just explained so folks could be able to get the full message today.
O intérprete se vocês quiserem escutar o áudio, vocês podem clicar no globo.
Maybe to explain the same thing in Portuguese too for our colleagues. Thank you.
Talvez seja a mesma coisa para os nossos colegas que estão falando português. Obrigada.
No one's, hello?
I think we might be having some maybe network struggle. Interpreters, are y'all able to hear us? Oh, they're speaking. We're fine.
But so you have to be off the channel for everyone to hear who's not on the channel.
Ayala has been speaking all the time. It's just that you can't hear unless you're in the Portuguese channel.
We are speaking in the Portuguese channel, so I think
do we want to wait for them to give the details, or do we want to continue?
Well, I think you have to speak out of a channel, so everyone who's not in a channel knows to choose one. So if you speak in a channel, they can't hear you if they're not in.
Mm-hmm.
So can you hear me? Ayala here, Portuguese interpreter.
Yes, I can hear you now.
So I'm speaking in the Portuguese channel, so do I have to say the same things here?
But okay, you're in the English channel?
Now I am in the English channel.
Can you come out of any channel, come out of all the channels and speak to everyone who's not in a channel?
All right, so I cannot, because if I turn to the Portuguese channel, people won't be able to hear me, only if they are, in the Portuguese channel.
Oh, okay, so we want people who are not in a channel, who speak Portuguese that are not in a channel, to know to choose one. That was
so
it.
I will speak the same thing she said in Portuguese here, so people will hear me, and then I'll turn to the Portuguese channel, okay?
Okay.
Se você quiser interpretação para o português, você clica no globo abaixo e seleciona o canal que você quer falar. A gente tem transcrição para o português e para o francês. Aí você precisa selecionar se você quer escutar em inglês, em francês ou em português. Now I'm going to turn to
Thank you all for sticking with us. We want to make sure that everybody's able to understand what information is being brought forth, and this is part of the language justice work. So thank you for sticking with us as we figure this out.
just let's start.
All right, sounds good. Thank you everyone for joining us for this vital press conference entitled Assault on Democracy in the Home of African Independence. My name is Salome Ayuak, and I am part of the U.S. Out of Africa network of the Black Alliance for Peace. And we called for this press conference to provide the public with an update from Guinea-Bissau and present the demands from on-the-ground leadership. These are leaders who have steadfastly opposed this blatant assault on democracy in Africa. And the order of events, we will first receive remarks from Imani Umoja from the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and the African Party for Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde. Following Comrade Imani Umoja, we will hear from Aissatu Djassi of the Amilcar Cabral African Youth. And finally, we will hear from Sabino Gomes Jr. from the Inclusive Alliance platform, Terra Ranka. Following these three remarks, we will open for questions. Given that our focus today is on Guinea-Bissau, it is only right that we amplify the words of ancestor Amilcar Cabral, who in his last written statement to the people of Guinea and Cape Verde Islands in January of 1973 wrote, "At this time, as we commemorate a new year of life and struggle, and a year in which our people's fight for independence is 10 years old, I must remind everyone, militants, fighters, leaders, and responsible people in our party, that it is time for action and not words. Action that must daily become more vigorous and effective in Guinea in order to inflict greater defeats on the Portuguese colonialists, and to remove all their vain and criminal pretensions of reconquering our country. Action too must develop daily and become more organized in the Cape Verde Islands so as to lead the struggle into a new phase in harmony with the aspirations of our people and the requirements of the total liberation of our country." Cabral's words are as relevant today as they were 50 years ago, as we will learn through our comrades' remarks. So first up, we have Imani Umoja from the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, from the All-African People's Revolutionary Party Central Committee. Imani Umoja resides in Guinea-Bissau and is part of the Politburo of the Central Committee of the African Party for Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, and a member of the PAIGC National Secretariat. Imani is also director of the PAIGC Amilcar Cabral Political Ideology Training School, as well as a member of the Amilcar Cabral Institute for Scientific Council, as well as the coordinator of the PAIGC Jolo, the Gabuzinho section of Autonomous Sector of Bissau, as well as Imani stays busy. Imani's also part of the West Africa People's Organization Coordination Council member and a member of the steering committee of the Black Alliance for Peace U.S. Out of Africa network. Imani, thank you for joining us today, and we can take it off with you.
Well, it's also would like to thank you for having us today, because as you know, our enemy tries to do any and everything in darkness. That is to say, in secret. They don't want the world to know what's going on. For example, if you look at what's going on in Palestine right now, they're still trying to hide it, but a lot is in the open. And so people throughout the world are taking a lot of steps, taking a lot of actions. But if you look at 20 years ago, 30 years ago, very few people knew about what was going on in Palestine. The same thing is true in the rest of the world, especially in Africa. Given that Africa is the richest continent in the world, has all these strategic resources and all these energetic people who the majority are youth, they're trying to do their best. They're trying to do their best to make sure that they stop us from development so that they can use our resources for them. The microphone's not working that well. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, a lot better. Thank you.
Oh, okay. And so what's going on is this. Throughout the years of colonialism, most people didn't know anything about what was going on in Africa. During the anti-colonial struggles, a few people knew, and they took steps to help. For example, in the armed struggles of Mozambique, Angola, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Guinea-Bissau, and other parts. We had a number of people who organized support groups. Those live in other parts of Africa and those living in other parts of the world, like in Africa, in Europe, in the different parts of the Americas, North, Central, South America. But after these countries came to be independent, again, now you didn't hear much about what's going on unless it was something bad. And the case is even more accentuated when you talk about countries that don't speak English. Maybe if you speak French, you get a little bit more coverage. But if you speak Spanish, you don't get as much coverage as those who speak English. And those of us who are in countries that were colonized by the Portuguese, we don't hardly hear anything at all, unless it's a war. So what's been happening is that our people, through our culture, have been struggling to develop ourselves, to make sure that we create complete human beings. The women go to have their babies, they have healthy babies, have access to health care. When the babies get to the age where they can go to kindergarten or to the elementary schools, that you have quality schools that they can go to, so they can transform themselves to be those human beings that will contribute to their society. We want the equality of men and women and everybody. We want to make sure that we have proper health care, proper housing, proper infrastructures like roads to travel down. So that if you're pregnant, you need to go deliver your baby at a health center, you don't have a problem not being able to get there because the road is bad. So that's the struggle we've been doing ever since the time of the glorious armed struggle. And that's the struggle that we're determined to continue right now. But on the same time, our enemy does any and everything they can to stop us. The situation we're in right now, the 19th of December, 2023, is that the people, through their courage and their consciousness, decided to risk everything to make sure they support their instrument, the African Party of Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, a Pan-Africanist revolutionary mass party that's here to transform society and be the instrument to protect the people's interests against those devils that want to steal all our resources and keep our people in misery. So after fighting against a number of coups d'etats and attempted coups d'etats, our party was outside of power illegally in 2019, but we won elections, came back into power. But the enemy used a puppet of France by the name of Umoja Sissoko Embalo, and they imposed him upon us as president. So we had to navigate around it. He illegally sacked our government, but we still had the relative majority in the National People's Assembly. Now we'll make a little footnote here. The National People's Assembly is not just only the legislative branch. It is the legislative branch, but not only that. It's the organ that was created during the time of the glorious armed struggle to make sure that people can elect their representatives. They will create a constitution based upon our reality, and then proclaim the existence of our state, the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, which they did. After that, the government emulated from the National People's Assembly. And after that, we have elections for the president. It's the National People's Assembly, or if you want to say AMP for short, it's the AMP, the National People's Assembly, that inaugurates the president. So it's the supreme organ of our state. But this imposed puppet of French colonialism, Umoja Sissoko Embalo, dissolved the National People's Assembly in May of last year, 2022. So by our constitution, you're supposed to have elections within 90 days. He didn't do it. Unilaterally, he decided that elections would take place in December. We struggled against that, but the date was fixed there. But it didn't happen because they didn't do anything to prepare for it. The elections finally took place in June of this year, 4 months ago. With all of the resources that the French imperialists have given to their puppets here, many, many cars, motorbikes, all types of campaign equipment like posters, T-shirts, money, just even literally throw out money on the streets when people follow behind their motorcades. In addition to the suitcases full of money they took to the villages to try to buy the people up. At the same time, they used an expired National Electoral Council that wasn't complete, didn't have all of its members, to have a technical, what they call GTAP, the technical office, do an illegal voter registration drive, where they were able to give voter registration cards to people who are not even citizens of Guinea-Bissau, Other people who were not even 18, we even say that some people were still breastfeeding were given voting cards. Other people who already been buried in the cemetery were given voting cards. While on the other hand, they tried to do their very best to make sure that those who support the PAIGC and this coalition called PAI, Terra, Ranka, that we will not get voting cards. But our people struggled to make sure that at least the majority of us got them. Then when it came time to have elections, they kept on doing everything they could to destabilize the PAIGC. They invaded our party headquarters where we're at right now several times, shot us up with tear gas from the Zionist Israel, and prevented us from having our party Congress, kidnapped a lot of people, attacked the radio stations, made all kind of threats, did everything they could to destabilize us. But with all of that, even though our campaign material was the little bit we were able to get, wasn't able to arrive until after the elections, the people in their infinite wisdom voted for the PAIGC. With all of the cheating, all of the violence, and all of the resources, material resources that Umar Sissoko's gang had, they only got 24% of the vote. So some of them went into shock, some died, some are still crippled right now, others have left the countries. But others decided, okay, they would devise other desperate attempts. So one of the desperate attempts happened this month. Beginning on the last day of November, there was a minister and secretary of state, the minister of economy and finance and secretary of state for the treasury, will call for questions about some transactions that took place, and they were arrested illegally. According to our system, if somebody's accused, it's the public ministry that has to make the accusation, and then it's a judge that has to make a decision whether or not that person should be detained, going to preventive detention or not. But they just violated that. It took them to a jail cell, and a few hours later, some elements of the National Guard went into the jail cell, took them from the jail cell to the National Guard's headquarters, and then a few hours later, the militia, the armed militia of the president, this imposed president, they went to start shooting with the National Guard. They had a fight. So the next morning, the day after that, the imposed president came back from where he was traveling, and at the airport, just unilaterally said, okay, he suggested that the president of the National People's Assembly, Domingos Simões Pereira, who's also the president of the PAIGC, that unilaterally accused Domingos Simões Pereira of being behind an attempted coup d'etat. And a lot of the fighting went on close by his house. But I want to make a very important point here. At the time that they were fighting between the National Guard and the militia of the president, close by the house of Domingos Simões Pereira, Domingos Simões Pereira was the president of the country exercise. The president of the National People's Assembly in Guinea-Bissau is the second figure in the state. It's like a vice president. If the president travels, it's the president of the National People's Assembly that's the interim president. So upon arrival, he made the suggestion that Domingos Simões Pereira was behind it. Later on, he came straight out and said, Domingos Simões Pereira tried to do a coup. Without any evidence at all, of course, it's just made up anyway. So when the National People's Assembly was meeting, this imposed president made a unilateral decree saying that the National People's Assembly is dissolved. Now, can you imagine that? This is the organ, the supreme organ of the state. Not only does it make laws, but it's the one that the government comes from. It's the one that gives inauguration to the president. So he did it illegally. So the president of the National Assembly, as well as the overwhelming majority of the elected members of the National People's Assembly, said, no, this decree from this imposed president is inexistent because the Constitution, that's the magnum law of Guinea-Bissau. And it says in the Constitution, you can't make any laws or decrees that are contrary to the Constitution. So if you make a decree, it doesn't exist. I like to give the example. It's like you're in Chicago, you make a decree for France or for Portugal. It just doesn't exist. You said it, you wrote it, but it doesn't have any legal effect at all. So the National People's Assembly kept on meeting, but they suspended the session. When they came back to meet again, you had these armed, masked men surrounding the premises, the building where the National People's Assembly meet. And worse than that, they started shooting tear gas at the elected representatives of our people. And I also said that since the National People's Assembly is dissolved, then that means that the government also is dismissed. But meanwhile, you had a meeting among the heads of states of ECOWAS. Leading up to the meeting, you had a meeting of the foreign ministers of the 16 countries to make up the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. And before they had a meeting of the Security Committee. The Security Committee said that they're going to invite Umaro Sissoko Mbalo to reopen up the doors of the National People's Assembly to allow the elected representatives to meet. And also said that these armed ECOWAS members here, they call themselves the Armed Stabilization Mission of Guinea-Bissau, which is 700 armed soldiers, mainly from Senegal and Nigeria. But you have a few from Ghana and maybe one or two from Benin, but the rest of the country don't have anybody here. It's mainly Senegal and Nigeria. So the Economic Committee of the ECOWAS community said that they're gonna end the mandate of this armed stabilization mission and have them come back. Well, by the time it got to the heads of states of ECOWAS, they made a turn on the part about the mission of the armed stabilization mission. They said, no, they will renew the mandate for a year, but they'll begin to discussing their gradual withdrawal. And so now what did this imposed president do? He unilaterally got in contact with the head of the armed stabilization mission here in Guinea-Bissau and told them that those two soldiers who were assigned to the National People's Assembly should be withdrawn. Even though the rules and regulations of the National People's Assembly says that the president has a right to have protection. Well, he already had, Domingos Simões Pereira already had security from Guinea-Bissau ever since 2014 when he was the prime minister. But this imposed president, Umaro Sissoko Mbalo, sent a message to the security of Guinea-Bissau, said that they should withdraw them also from the house of Domingos Simões Pereira. So the message that he's given is that he wants to take away the security of Domingos Simões Pereira. Now I would like to give my opinion on this. The reason why all of this is going on is because we're very close to have presidential elections and Domingos Simões Pereira will win in the first round. Everybody knows that. The party that supports Sissoko only got 24% of the vote, so he's trying to create whatever he can to stop Domingos from being the presidential candidate. So I'll pause here.
Thank you, Imani. Thank you for providing that context, that background. It's very clear that the neocolonialists are afraid of the power of Africans rising up and taking back control of their lives, their homes, and their institutions. Thank you. I appreciate you. For the audience, just a quick clarification. We're gonna run a bit over time just to assure that all of our panelists get the full amount of time that is necessary to talk about this work. So next up, I'm going to introduce Aissatu Djassi, who is a member of the PAIGC in Constituency 29, Section Jolo Gabuzino Base 1, head of the Division of Administration and Human Resources Management of the National Secretariat of JAAC, coordinator of the Revolutionary Pan-African Youth Association, and the 5th year computer engineering university student at the Greenheart and Soft Superior Informatic University. Thank you for joining us. All of y'all are very, very, very busy in Guinea-Bissau, assuring that this work is put forth. Aissatu Djassi, go ahead and share your remarks with us. I think you're still on mute.
Aissatu, ativo o micro. Ativo o micro, Aissatu. Aissatu, ativo o micro. Nós estamos a te ouvir. Ativa o micro, Aissatu. Estou falando para ativar o micro, só ajuda.
Aissatu, you're still on mute.
Ok. Boa tarde.
Good afternoon.
Só vou falar do acontecido no dia da vigília.
I'm going to talk about what happened on the Vigil Day.
Foi no dia 10.
On the 10th,
Fomos à vigília na sede de CDAO.
we went to a vigil.
De JAAC.
with some camarades from JAAC.
detido pela força de segurança.
We were stopped by the
Disseram que não
security
podíamos
forces.
ficar ali,
They said we couldn't
porque
get in.
eles tinham a informação de que estávamos a lançar as pedras.
They had information that we were
Muitas
throwing
outras
stones,
coisas.
and
Mas
among
eles
other
chegaram e
things,
viram todos numa posição
they saw us in a position,
normal
normal positions.
a pedir
We were
ao
just
CDAO
we were
que
just there standing.
tomem uma decisão
We just
firme,
wanted them to make a decision, a firm
com a
decision,
situação que está acontecendo no
with
Guiné-Bissau.
what's happening in
Era
Guinea-Bissau.
só o que estávamos a pedir.
That's all we asked for.
Espancaram outros camaradas,
They beat some of our camaradas.
colocaram-nos no carro e
They put us in the car,
levaram-nos para a esquadra, segunda esquadra.
and they took us to a
Ficámos ali
prison.
por 5 horas.
We spent 5 hours there,
Nos deixaram ir para casa.
and then they let us go home.
E é tudo que eu tenho para dizer.
That's all I have to say.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us, yeah, the repression that y'all went through for fighting for your rights. Next up, we will have Sabino Gomes Jr., who is a member of the Political Commission of Circle 25 for the development of a strategic recommendation book to win the struggle against the former president dictator Jose Mario Vaz, member of the strategic team lead by the Prime Minister Geraldo Martins, and that prepared the emergency program of the legislature government, founding member of the People's Reflection and Action Group to denounce a dictatorship and struggle against corruption, against the corrupt President Umaro Sissoko Embaldo, the policy advisor for the Amilcar Cabral African Youth. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to hearing your remarks.
Okay, thank you, Salome. Good afternoon, everybody. I just start to speak in English, but I gotta do all my intervention in French. I choose the French because Imani speak English. Aissatu speak Portuguese, so I prefer to speak French. So we can have both the language at the same time. Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis Sabino Gomes Jr.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sabino Gomes Jr.
Je suis un membre
I am a member of
de la coalition Terra.
the
Et nous nous battons
and we
clairement
are currently fighting
Monsieur Umaro Sissoko Embalo
Mr. Umaro Sissoko Embalo
parce que Monsieur Umaro
because
Sissoko Embalo
this latter
est un dictateur
is a dictator
soutenu par
supported by
la France,
France.
clairement pas le
Clearly,
peuple français,
not
mais,
the French people, obviously,
mais le pouvoir en place
but the government currently in place
continue à soutenir
who continues to support
des présidents africains
the African president
qui ne respectent pas la démocratie
who does not respect democracy,
et qui continuent à
That is
opprimer,
not respecting
continues
democracy,
to
and he
oppress
keeps
à opprimer le peuple.
he keeps
people.
on oppressing the people.
Nous, les jeunes,
We,
Us,
the
the
people,
youth,
nous voulons plus cette Afrique-là.
we
no
don't
longer
want them
want
there.
this
We don't want
Africa.
that type of Africa.
Nous voulons
We
want
would like
suivre
to follow
We want to keep
la voie propre d'Afrique.
the
we
clear
want to
pathway of
to
Africa,
follow the real voices of Africa.
La voie d'Amilcar Cabral,
The voice of Amilcar Cabral.
the path of Amilcar Cabral.
Hold on, everybody. We're having a bit of technical difficulties.
interpreters, I don't, we were trying to figure out why there were two people speaking English. There was no Portuguese. I don't know how to straighten this out. Can the interpreters work this out? Oh, so they want you to continue now, Sandino. They said it's worked out.
Awesome.
Sabino. Uh-oh, we lost him? Uh-oh.
I think we lost connection. Part of the data struggles, which hopefully will be resolved once the PAIGC and the All African People's Revolutionary Party takes their stance. Welcome back.
Okay.
Once they're able to do their work and be able to actually,
Okay. Okay. I gotta just keep going, not to restart. En fait, vous m'entendez?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna keep going in French. Je disais que.
So, as I was saying, we are fighting alongside of the coalition because we believe in a vision given to us by the OJ, because it is this project that has put into place the people in the first place, and we fight and combat and believe that it is the right pathway to follow and to respect the will of the people. And the will of the people was expressed clearly during the elections in the 4th of June. The people Bissau Guinea has chosen clearly the PAIGC with 54% of votes given to them. And despite this victory, this crashing victory of the PAIGC, the political strategy chosen by the party has decided to work with the synergy with all parties. This is why we believe it is the right pathway, the unifying pathway that will lead Guinea-Bissau towards development and to develop the life of its people. From this, we have seen the creation of a polygation. The coalition that has started working in the National Assembly, not only with the parties who have participated in the elections with them, but with the losing parties like the PRS, who was a party that lost the elections, but the PAIGC has continued to work with them in the National Assembly. Regardless, you will see the consensus to get the country out of difficult situations where we have found ourselves in the past. I have personally worked with Geraldo Marquez to prepare the emergence plan before elections. We all know that the party led by Omar Sisi Soembalo has put the population in difficult conditions. The law of Kaju that represents the force, the economic force of the country. More than 90% of the people use that was used for their living, and represented 99% of the people's income. The people were then dying of hunger, and the sack of rice was only sold for $50, so $1 for each kilo. The people had a difficult time to get to their needs and to respond to their needs. The government, and we have seen that the government has decided to decrease the price of rice, so that even the poorest can buy some rice to give to their children. We need that the government works for the population, for the people. We have also decided, despite the government, despite its the difficulties, to review and revisit the prices of gas and decrease the prices of flour so that the population could have the strict minimum. The price of bread has increasingly, incredibly decreased. They need at least $2, $3 to survive every day. So they have decreased the prices of flour, rice, gas, and is currently decreasing the prices of sugar and other basic elements so that the population can survive. Despite all of this, we have seen the dictator president supported by France starting to pull many attempts, wrong ideas, to put down the government and make and lead the way for the fall of the National Assembly. We have understood that their objectives are not only to take the government, but to attack the people and the population. They do not want the people to have good living conditions. We are already seeing the consequences. We are seeing a decree that has no place and no right of being there. And the dictator president does not care about the people. And seeing the prices of the cost of living increasing, we are saying no to his attitude, to this dictator who wants to divide the country. We are working to unite the people, and he is working for splitting the people and splitting our values. We are against, not only just to be against, but to summarize what has happened with them. They did not say that they were. They didn't say that they were defeated. A kid was beaten because she said no. It is a kid who has no arms, no way to aggress the police. She just said no. I want democracy. I want to live in a country that is free, where I can dream. As Cabral has defined a country, a kid like her who wants to live for her country, to dream for her country, went to manifest to say no for the dictator. She was defeated, she was beaten and aggressed by the police. We have seen the deputies of the PAIGC who have worked in the assembly and were shot by tear gas. They went to manifest democratically, to speak up their mind, who went to work democratically in their workplace that was shut down by the army and the military. We are happy because we know that we are not alone today. The proof is that this organization, this conference, we know that your force gets to us, and we want to continue to go even further, to be able to denounce not only a dictator that was put into force in Guinea-Bissau. We must say the truth. Our dear Iman has well defined the context, but we must said it. He was imposed by the military. Up to this date, he did not invest in the National Assembly or the Constitution of Guinea-Bissau. He was imposed by the army. So he wants a second mandate, even today, as he is in France, to ask the colonizers to give him a little okay, so that he can come back and put into place his different ideas and spread his dictatorship. Today, we are saying that Guinea-Bissau is a free country. We are free countries. We must us ourselves define our pathway towards development. We must choose what we want Guinea-Bissau to be. It is not the European capital. It is not France that must dictate who can or cannot be president in Guinea-Bissau. In February 2025, we must have a new president. We want in November 2024, Mr. Mbao must go again into presidential elections, but we denounce France's support, the military support, and their push so that this dictator cannot continue to change our destiny towards what we do not know. We do not know where he is going to take us, where he's going to take our country. It is unknown. We are against this. We want that our constitution be fully respected. It is clear that Article 94 in our disposition says that the National Assembly cannot be removed, cannot be degraded, cannot be hurt. At least 1 year following the legislative elections that constitutes the National Assembly. But we see that this Mr. has set out a false decree to say that there is no peace. There are no necessary conditions for government institutions can function. And has tried to make the National Assembly fall down. We say no to this. We want democracy. We want peace. We do not have the arms for it.
Thank you so much for such a powerful.
The fight goes on. The fight goes on.
It goes on. It goes on. It goes on. Thank you so much. And
we're gonna fight against this dictator. He don't want to respect the law.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Obrigado. Thank you.
And in the words of Amilcar Cabral, as you've your words,
we have here Theodora Gomes. No. She fights for our independence. She's a hero here.
Ancien combatant.
Yeah. She knew Amilcar Cabral and fight with Amilcar Cabral. And she's here to support us.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Yes, and as you brought up Cabral as well, when you were speaking, I was thinking about what he said around what the people are fighting for. Cabral said, always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, for the things in anyone's heads. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, to see their lives go forward, to guarantee the future of their children. And so thank you for reminding us of the material needs. And also, this is a very historic moment, right? We're talking about the same things that Gomes was out there in the bush fighting for, right? And so thank you all. We're gonna open up for Q&A from the audience. Yeah, and let's start with the first question, which is from Kwame X. And the question is, what can we do materially in the diaspora to be in solidarity with the PAIGC? And it sounds like this question might be best for Imani.
We want to, first of all, thank you for this question. But before we answer the question, one comrades know we're really honored to have our living heroine, Comrade Sister Theodora Gomes, together with us in the sacred house, in the house of Amilcar Cabral, of the PAIGC. And to say that the only way we can pay her back for all the sacrifice she continues to make, because I was in a meeting with her ever since this morning up to right before this meeting began. The only way we can pay her back is by working harder and harder, more efficiently every day, every night, every early morning. To respond directly to the question about what can comrades who live outside of Africa do to help with the struggle in Africa, and specifically, in this case, the Guinea-Bissau, I think the comrades should, if you have that consciousness, we would like for you to have the consciousness that you too can be a militant of the PAIGC. And we want you to do any and everything the militants of the PAIGC do to transform our society. In this specific challenge, what we have on our side right now is the fact that the Constitution says you cannot dissolve a National People's Assembly in less than 12 months after elections. We just had elections about 5 months ago in June. That's one of the main things we have on our side. And the Constitution also says if you make any laws or decrees that are in contradiction with the Constitution, then those decrees and laws are non-existent. Well, we have that on our side. Since we're part of several communities, we're part of the West African community, which is called the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. We're part of the African Union for all of Africa. We're part of the United Nations for all the independent countries in the world that have a seat in the United Nations. We're also part of the Portuguese-speaking countries in the world. It's called CPLP. And then we have relationships with other different bilateral and multilateral organizations. But with those three main organizations that we just mentioned, ECOWAS, since they already made a decision at the level of the heads of the states, I think we should now, those of us who are inside of Guinea-Bissau and outside of Guinea-Bissau, should put pressure on them to implement it. And we know that the National People's Assembly has not been dissolved, but you still have armed people with masks on who are blocking the members, not just the deputies of the National People's Assembly, but even those who work, those who clean the floors, the technicians work there, the permanent staff, they're not allowing them to go inside this building. So first thing we should do is use pressure. You can do it by telephone. You can call, right now, ECOWAS is led by what is called a permanent commission. And the president of the permanent commission is Ayuak. He was appointed by the Gambian government, the government of the Gambia, West Africa. So you could put pressure. They have their social media, ECOWAS. You could put pressure on Ayuak and the commission to implement the decisions. Make sure you open up, because you got these armed stabilization members, these 700 soldiers that have arms who are supposed to be here to help with stability. They haven't been doing anything. Tell the ECOWAS commission to make sure that they open up the doors of the National People's Assembly so the deputies can go inside and meet. And also tell them to return the security of ECOWAS to the president of the National People's Assembly, Domingos Simões Pereira. That's for this particular incident. But we know that, that the threats will continue systematically, because our enemy is not just afraid, they are, it's like a nightmare for them to see that after all they've done, these people, these humble people, still support the PAIGC. And I mean, it's the youth. If you talk to any 100 youth in the universities, the college, high schools, at least 90 of them support the PAIGC actively. Well, at least 80% support it actively. At least 90% will support them with their mouths and will vote for them. If you go to the women's sector of the women, it's the overwhelming majority of women, the farmers, the women. So our enemy will continue to do things like assassinations. And so we must also raise our voice to say to Umaro Sissoko Embalo and his French leaders, and by the way, it's in French right now, say it very loud and clear to them: if you touch one hair on the head of Domingos Simões Pereira, the worst you can ever imagine will happen to you and your family. If anything happens to Domingos Simões Pereira in the morning, by the afternoon, worse will happen to Umaro Sissoko Embalo. And I want you to know, right where I'm sitting right now, it's the PAIGC National Headquarters, right next to the presidential palace. And he can't hide anywhere he goes in the world. If he tries to go to DC, y'all get him there. If he goes to New York, get him there. He go to Chicago, get him there. He go to Paris, get him there. No matter where he goes, if he goes to another planet, get him there. Let know loud and clear. We're not gonna sit by here and allow worse than the worst, scum of the scum, to threaten those who are faithful to our people's struggle. So we like to say to you, those who live in the diaspora, don't look like it's like a lake between us. Between Africa and Europe, you got the Mediterranean. Between Africa, North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean Islands, you got the Atlantic Ocean. It's a lake. It's a small body of water. Don't let that separate us. Be in harmony with us. Since you have access to comrades of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, the Black Alliance of Peace. Of course, we would like for you to join them. But if you haven't joined another organization, stay in contact with them to get constant updates on the situation and be willing to do any and everything to make sure that this victory, because we're going to get victory. We have no doubts at all. The National People's Assembly will open up again. The deputies who were elected democratically by people will begin their work again. And our government continues to work what it's doing already to help transform our society. We have no doubt about that at all. But we know that other things will happen. It's constant. It's a constant struggle. So we should be in harmony with that by being in constant systematic communications with the Black Alliance of Peace and the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. I'm like you. Nobody pays me to work with the PAIGC other than our people rewarding us with the respect they give us and the sense of happiness to know that there's some people that you've helped to have access to school and now they become engineers, doctors, making their contribution to our society, helping to raise the consciousness of our people. So we're the same. And understanding when you do this, you have eternal life. So in terms of your material contribution, it's also immaterial.
Comrade Imani,
yes.
Do you mind speaking slower for our interpreters?
Okay. Sorry about going so fast, it's the emotion. We want you to be willing to do anything and everything, like Malcolm X says, by any means necessary. But the best way is organizing. Can you imagine when we get to the point where we have the masses of our people organized in Nigeria, in Senegal? It's coming, but imagine that, for example, they have a meeting of the heads of states of ECOWAS, and you got thousands of people surrounding the building of ECOWAS. They're gonna have a meeting in the United Nations, you got thousands of people surrounding the United Nations building. And on the other hand, when the enemy does anything against us, you have thousands of people ready to get revenge with the enemy. Like the people who killed Che Guevara, they were eventually killed in France. So this is the power organization. So in a nutshell, they'd be willing to do anything, but first thing we want you to do is we're gonna get you a copy of the letter that the President of the National People's Assembly sent to ECOWAS telling them to implement their decisions. Give you a copy, and then y'all can use it on your social media, send it to the Facebook of ECOWAS. They also have a website. They have I'm sure they have other applications they use as well. And those of you who are close to an embassy, or you can even look up the telephone number of the ambassador of Gambia, the ambassador of Nigeria in your area. It's the president of Nigeria, Tinubu, who's the acting president. You know, they rotate presidents every year. So it's Tinubu, the president, Balu Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, who's the president of the ECOWAS Commission. I'm sorry, the ECOWAS heads of states assemblies. And it's Aliou Touré out of Gambia, who was appointed by the government of Gambia because the position is given to Gambia to lead up the permanent commission. So Aliou Touré is a part of the Gambian government. So you can even send make a lot of.
Comrade Imani?
Yes, sister.
There are a few other questions here that we'd like to get to as well. Do you mind wrapping up? Okay.
So in a nutshell, let's flood them with telephone calls. Let's flood their social media to make sure that they realize that this situation in Guinea-Bissau right now is just not a little minor issue. That we're really concerned about it, and we're going to do any and everything necessary to make sure that democracy rules, the people's will dominates. So we'll pause for here.
Thank you. The next question is on the role of ECOWAS in Guinea-Bissau struggle and how it compares to the role in the Alliance of Sahel States. And this question is directed towards Comrade Sabino. So yeah, could you please talk about the role of ECOWAS in the Guinea-Bissau struggle and how it compares to its role in Alliance of Sahel States?
Thank you again, Salome. And thank you, Iman. I think Iman already do some clarification. Again, it's good to explain what's going on here in Guinea-Bissau. But for us, ECOWAS is a organization, West African organization. The first point is this organization was built with Guinea-Bissau support. Anyone knows ECOWAS was built with our support. I mean, we believe really in this structure. We really believe ECOWAS was built to improve West African people's lives, not to improve our president's life. So we asking for ECOWAS to coming back to the start and asking why we or our countries decide to create this organization and work together. Is for support presidents or is for finding way to improve our people's life. If we talk about people's, we believe the last president's meetings talk clearly to the Umaro Sissoco Embalo to coming back to Bissau and let go this idea to putting down our government and putting down the democracy and to putting down our Congress. He must let it go and forget it. And again, ECOWAS decisions decide to defend democracy. And ECOWAS said clearly, Umaro Sissoco Embalo need to let in place the Prime Minister Geraldo Martins. Said again, they want to see the democracy to stay and to be strong in Guinea-Bissau. But now, when the president is back, we see the PAIGC and the Terra Ranka let a window to dialogue and to speak with Umaro Sissoco Embalo. We need to understand, even now we are talking, PAIGC and the Terra Ranka didn't ask for the people to go out and defend our vote. We are waiting. We want to discuss and find a peaceful way and the solution. So we asking ECOWAS to send the ministry's team they promise they're gonna send to Guinea-Bissau. We are waiting for them. They need to come as quick possible before we convoke the people, before we decide to fighting for our right, because we are ready. You are ready and we can die for it. Cabral dying for our hope. And this hope is us, is me, and is other young people we see here. Is Aissatu, is fighting for us. So if we, at the same time, at this moment, if we are convoked, if the PAIGC say is the moment to go out, we're gonna asking the people to go out and we're gonna go, but make sure we're gonna be in front of them. Not back, yeah. We're gonna be in front of. We are ready. But before we arrive at this moment, again, we asking for ECOWAS as they write, as they decide on the last meeting, they need to send this commission to come and talk to Umaro Sissoco Embalo. He must stop. He must stop. Because if this point is not clear for Umaro Sissoco Embalo, as I have said, we are ready. The young people, the people in Guinea-Bissau are ready to defend our democracy. But as Domingo Simões Pereira said, we decide to let Geraldo, as Prime Minister, to be the one who gonna define the bridge with PAIGC and the Umaro Sissoco Embalo. The dialogue bridge is necessary because we want peace. We're fighting for peace.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
Thank you. And then if anybody wants to also address that question, in addition to the question of what can we take from the progression of the Palestinian liberation movement and apply to places such as Guinea-Bissau, Congo, Sudan. The entire continent is fighting right now. People know their conditions. People know that this isn't it, and that we deserve full self-determination, and we deserve to have full autonomy over our lives. And so, yeah, just like to speak to both, if any of the other folks want to speak to any of, speak to the ECOWAS question, as well as the question around Palestinian solidarity.
I can talk about it, or it's gonna be Imani who's gonna talk about it?
So you can begin with the question around, we can begin with either with any of the other two speakers, like talking to the question around ECOWAS and Guinea-Bissau, and then after that, anybody can take on the question of solidarity with Palestinian liberation movement and other movements taking place on the continent, such as Congo and Sudan.
Yeah, as you know, Amilcar Cabral show us the way. We are not only fighting for Guinea-Bissau freedom, but we're fighting for humans being freedom. What we see in Palestinian and in other countries, Congo and the other countries, we see for us is only the people. We see the people, they are same as us. They are suffer. We see military actions killing kids. We see militaries fighting hope, people's hope.
Mm-hmm.
We see mothers crying without hope. We see in Congo too, young humans crying because they are using by many bad ways just to prove the authorities and the dictators have the power. They have the power. It's not the people who have the power. But in Palestine, I think it's a different kind of solutions we need. I think Guinea-Bissau can be an example, because here we have politicians. We have corrupt politicians, and they are working with the country like France, but the people still together. We have different kind of ethnic peoples. We have Pepel, we have Mayako, and different kind of ethnic peoples, but they still together. There is not problem at this level. I think it's same thing in Palestine and Israel. I think at the level of the people, we can find a way to create a dialogue, and they can change ideas and find a solution. I'm trying to say maybe the solution needs to come down to the top. It's not the top to the down. Maybe we try to propose solutions as the top to the down. Maybe we need to start to think about solutions on the people solutions at the down level, not at the politicians level, because the politicians level, I think for many years, is the same thing. We see every year is the more and the more Palestinians, people who are dying and who are losing hope, and who really don't believe anymore in the international community.
Yeah, definitely.
As a brothers country, I think the Guinea-Bissau can start to talk about down level and the solution level with the peoples. And maybe at this level we can come up with a solution. Because at the politicians level, I don't believe we're gonna find a easy way as a solutions. And I came here as a humble